morning. We are continuing with Unit 9. We are learning about finding the perimeter, the area, and today we are doing CO53. I can calculate the circumference of a circle. So we've talked about the perimeter and the area of squares and rectangles and triangles and trapezoids. Now we're moving into the circle. The circle is going to be very different. The squares, rectangles, and triangles and trapezoids were similar in their formulas that we used. So circle is different. So we really need to pay attention. A circle is the set of all points in a plane that are the same distance, called the radius, from a fixed point, called a center. So if we have our circle, let's go over here. That's not a very good circle. Let me try that again. So let's say that is an exact circle. If I used a compass, can't really use a compass on a smartboard. Shh. We have a center. Okay, so the center is right in the middle of the circle. So the radius is going from the center to that outside line. And it doesn't matter where from that center you go to that outside line, it will be the same distance every time. So because a circle is exact, mine is not exact. It is not drawn to scale because I'm freehanding it. But going from the middle, that center, to the outside, that is our radius. Because it's called a radius, we call it the R. So that's going from the center of the circle to the outside of the circle. So the center is that point inside the circle. The radius is the distance between the center to any point that's on the center, or that's on the circle. Our diameter is the distance across the circle through the center. So our diameter goes all the way from end to end, but it has to cross through the center. So this is our diameter. Now it must cross through the center. If it doesn't cross through the center, if we were just to draw like that end to that end, that's not a diameter. It is not long enough. It's a line. It's actually a segment because a line goes on and on and on. So this would be a segment, but it's not the diameter because it doesn't go through the center. So both the radius and the diameter are connected through the center of our circle. The radius we label as an R, the diameter is the D. Yes?
So if to find the diameter, if you already have the radius, can you just multiply the radius by 2?
Yes. The diameter is 2 radiuses because from the center to this point is 1 radius. From the center to this point is another radius. So if you have the radius, you can find the diameter by multiplying by 2. If you have the diameter, how can you find the radius, Gabby? Yeah, you divide by 2. So the diameter, if you cut it in half, you would have a radius. So the circumference of a circle is the area around the circle. So for a square, rectangle, triangle, we called it the perimeter, going around the outside. For a circle, we call it the circumference. It's the area around the outside. So it's the distance going around the circle. The ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter is represented by the Greek letter pi. It's spelled P-I. So it's not the pie that we eat. The pie that we eat is P-I-E. The Greek letter pi is just pi. The value of pi is 3.14159 because it goes on and on and on and on. And I'm not going to write it all up, but it does go on and on and on. The approximation is 3.14 because we round it. 3.14159. We're going to round it to just that 100th place. So when we talk about pi, we say it equals 3.14. We can use just 3.14 if we don't have the pi on our calculator button. So if you don't have it, you can just do 3.14. Because some of us, is it on that one?
No, but you can divide 22 by 7.
Right. I'm going to talk about, you're jumping ahead on me, Tristan. My goodness. So we're going to be in our workbook pages. They have us just multiplying by 3.14. We could also, if it's easier to do fractions with the problem we're given, 22/7 is the equivalent fraction for 3.14. So if we did 22 divided by 7, you would get the same number. So pi is either 3.14 or if you're going to do it with a fraction, you would say 22/7. And we're going to go through when we would use 3.14 and when we would use the fraction. Anthony?
Why can't we round the 3.14 to a 3.2?
Well, because, one, you wouldn't round it to a 2 because a 4 is less than 5.
Okay.
And because it's common acceptance that we do it to 3.14. That's just how people use it. And so we have to be consistent with what other people are doing. Because it'll give you a slightly different answer if you did 3.1 instead of 3.14. And we want to be as precise as we can be. All right, so finding the circumference of a circle. The circumference C of a circle is the product. What does it mean if we're doing a product? Multiplying. Of pi and the diameter, or twice the product of pi and the radius. So we could say C equals pi times the diameter, or C equals 2 pi r. Sometimes we're just given the r. So we would do 2 pi r because we have to multiply that radius by 2 to get the diameter. Or if they give us the diameter, we could just say pi times the diameter. Do you have a question, Anthony?
It's not really what we're doing right now. But, what would we do like an oval?
Yeah, we're not doing ovals right now. Let's just focus on circles. I don't want to confuse anyone. So it's a legitimate question. Let's just focus on the circle for right now, okay? All right, let me erase this so I can move it up. Shh. It was a good question. Ugh. All right, so we're going to use, remember, pi equals 3.14 or 22/7. And remember, we have our formula for our circumference. If we know the diameter, it's just the diameter times pi. And if we know the radius, it's 2 pi r. So it's just 2r equals the diameter. So finding the circumference of a circle. Find the circumference of a clock with a diameter of 25 centimeters. Use 3.14 for pi. So remember, we're always about writing out our equation. what equation are we going to write? We're going to start with C for circumference equals what? What math am I going to do, Brielle? Yeah, because it's 25 centimeters is our diameter. So I'm replacing the diameter with 25 centimeters. Pi, what number am I going to put in for pi?
3.14.
So 3.14 times 25. So what is 3.14 times 25? Nick?
78.5.
78.5 centimeters. Make sure you put that measurement on there so we know just how long it is. So it is 78.5 centimeters all the way around the clock. So all we're doing is we're replacing the diameter for the diameter. If we'd been given the radius, we would have put it in this one and multiplied it by 2 also. So it depends on what you're given. We have 2 different formulas. One if we're given the diameter, one if we're given a radius. Because we know that radius is twice for a diameter.
So you can't be given with two. So you can't be given with the diameter and the radius.
Well, they could say the diameter is 25 centimeters and the radius is 12.5 centimeters. Then you choose which one you want to use. I would use the diameter because there's less math. I don't have to multiply by 2. It would be easier to use the diameter if you're given the diameter.
Oh, so you get the same answer then?
Yeah. Because 12.5 times 2 equals 25. So if I do 12.5 times 2 times pi or 25 times pi, yeah, you're doing the exact same math.
Oh.
So it doesn't matter which way you use it, you get the same answer. So just use the information that they give you. So let's look here. When the radius or diameter of a circle is divisible by 7, use the 22/7 as the approximation for pi. So let's find the circumference of a circle with a radius of 21 inches. How am I going to set this up? Will?
C equals 24 times 21.
Yeah. Now that's our radius.
So
So what else do I have to multiply it by?
2.
I also have to multiply it by 2 because that was our radius. So we have to make sure we multiply by 2.
Couldn't it also be 22 over 7 times 42?
It could be. So you did that math in your head. So Will knew that we could do 22/7 times 42 because 21 times 2 is 42. Now think about what we know about fractions. When we multiply fractions with a whole number, we put a 1 under it. We can cross simplify. If I divide a 7 out here, I can divide a 7 out here, and what am I left with? 22, right? Because 7 divided by 7 is 1, and 42 divided by 7 is 6. So what is 22 times 6?
132.
So this is why they say you can use 22/7 because you can just work with easy numbers. Could we have done 3.14 times 21 times 2 and get 132? What is 3.14 times 21 times 2? So it's not the whole numbers.
138.6. If I heard that right.
What'd you do?
So you get
I put
the
it
decimal
on-
points.
on-
So when they're saying to do the fraction instead, it's because it's easier to work with and we don't end up with those decimal points. Remember, these are approximations. They are not the exact numbers. So they're approximations. They're easy numbers to work with, but it's not exact because pi goes on and on and on. So that's why they're slightly different answers. So in the workbook, if it tells you to use the fraction, use the fraction. Otherwise, you're not going to get the exact same answer that you're supposed to get. So if it tells you to use the fraction instead of the decimal, then do the fraction. Does that make sense?
I don't think the
Well, did we need to use the calculator for that? So you would write it out this way and you would solve it like this with the fraction. Okay, so either way you should be writing out your equation that you're working on because we're showing our work. So if it says you do the fraction, you're gonna write it out with the fraction and do the fraction math so you can get the whole answer. Will?
Would the fraction one be easier, or is it based off the question?
Based off the question. The question's gonna tell you to do a fraction if it's divisible by 7. Okay, so it will tell you which one to use. Zoe.
If it tells you a fraction, can you have to do it, or can you just change it to 1? Or 34?
Do you want to get the correct answer?
Honestly, I don't really care.
Yeah. Honestly, I do. If it tells you to do the fraction, then do the fraction
Okay.
so you get the correct answer. And it's also going to help us brush up on multiplying our fractions because we do have that math test coming up. I know we're going to be on a Thursday. I just don't know which Thursday. I know it's not this Thursday. So it's coming up though. So we want to make sure math test. So it is coming up. We want to make sure that we are ready for it. So if it says to use the fraction because there's going to be fractions on that math test. Let's look at this bottom one. Finding the diameter of a circle. Just like when we were doing the perimeter and areas, we have to find the missing spot. So that missing variable. So the largest living tree in the United States is a giant sequoia in Sequoia National Park in California. Its trunk is roughly circular and has a circumference of 1,231 inches at ground level. Whew, that is a huge tree.
Yeah.
What is the tree's diameter at ground level? So we know the circumference. So we're going to put the circumference in for the C. We want to find the diameter, and we know that pi is 3.14. We know we're multiplying. So if we're multiplying 3.14 times d, that equals 1,231. How do we get the diameter by itself? What do we divide, Peyton?
120, 12, 31. I couldn't.
So 1,231.
Yeah. And then you divide that by 3.14.
We're going to divide both sides by 3.14. So
I did, and then I just.
3.14 divided by 3.14, we get 1. So we get down to just the diameter. What is 1,231 divided by 3.14, Ryan?
392.821.
Round it.
Don't be laughing at me.
392.
So the full number would look like this, inches. Don't forget to put your label, 392.0382 inches. It does not say to round it, so I would put out the whole answer. Oh, really? You can't write 4 numbers, Zoe?
It's actually
What?
5 numbers. No, it's not.
It's
A one where?
It's 5. It's 5.
It's
actually 5
I got
numbers.
this 9 2 0 3 2 1.
Yeah.
Oh, mine only went out 4. So just write whatever your calculator gives you.
I
But the point is, do we understand how to find the diameter?
Yes.
It's the same thing that we've been doing. Solve for your variable. If we're multiplying, do the opposite and divide it. So you get the variable by itself.
So
Our homework for today. Excuse me. Our homework for today, we are doing page 153, 154. We are working on that circumference. How are we feeling about finding the circumference? Okay, so some of us are like, yeah, I got it. Some of us are like, ooh, this is new. All right, and that's why we're doing the practice work. We do, listen, we have time to work on this in class. I will go over to the back table back here if anybody wants to work with me if they need any extra help. For my friends at home, we hope you are well and we hope to see you soon.